So DC's got two very popular paperback formats right now, DC Finest and Compendiums. What really makes the difference between these two, and how do we factor in things like these?
It's morphin' time!
Hello, this is Soundout here, and on today's video, I'm going to try to figure out the reasoning behind DC's collected editions department, because it's very interesting to see that DC is running multiple formats of paperbacks right now. DC Finest is the new one that everybody's really loving, myself included, and it is a really cool comprehensive line with numbered volumes the way that Marvel's Epic collections are. And then DC's been running the Compendiums for a while, which are thicker books with a lot of content in them. And so it kind of asks the question, is like, what justifies a compendium versus what justifies a finest? And then we got all these other little paperback formats that I also want to discuss. I do not know the answer officially behind these things because I do not work for DC Comics. What I'm going to do is share my observations through the collections that I've bought and see if I can kind of figure out a little bit of how would one go about collecting. Like, should you pick up the Green Lantern Rebirth Compendium if you're a finest collector, for example? That's what today's video is going to be about, and if you enjoy that, hit the like button, hit subscribe, the notification bell, hit the hype button if it's available to you. Let's get to it. I'm going to talk about each format before talking about the overlap. So I've talked about DC Finest on the channel before multiple times, and based on the viewership, this is a pretty popular format. I think it's a brilliant idea. DC taking, a couple years of characters' histories, putting 600 pages together for $40 US. It's honestly a great business model. So the DC Finest so far, we've gotten a bunch of them. They've really been cranking them out, and they've been a mix of things that have been reprinted before and a mix of things that haven't. Now, depending on the character, it depends on how the collection works. So, for example, Catwoman Lifelines covers 1988 to 1994 because Catwoman didn't have an ongoing series until 1993. So because of that, you have a lot of the earlier stuff is included to get a wider date range. But then for somebody like Batman, who's in constant publication, this volume only covers 87 to 88, and specifically, it is like early, I think it's late 87, early 88, because you have Batman plus Detective Comics plus graphic novels and other side material. So that's kind of how Finest works, but they're very date specific, but they're always about 600 pages a piece. Some are a little shorter, some are a little longer, but they're always around 600 pages, and that kind of seems to be how Finest works. And Finest does jump around timelines, while some, like Batman or Catwoman, have been going sequentially. Others have been jumping around super crazy. But what about compendiums? So there's actually multiple types of compendiums, even though they're all called compendium. So first of all, we have like Batman Black and White here. This is a compendium which is essentially a paperback reprint of the Batman Black and White omnibus, but I do believe it added a little bit of things that weren't in the Batman Black and White omnibus. So that kind of provides a unique experience in that way. Then we have the Grant Morrison Animal Man Compendium, which is literally just the omnibus in paperback form. It's the same exact contents that the omnibus contained, even including some of the extra material in the back, like the sketch work and stuff. So this is essentially just a paperback version of the omnibus. So there's a little bit of, sometimes it changes, sometimes it doesn't. But of course, there's other things that we have for compendium. How about something that doesn't have an omnibus, like Batman Beyond? Here we have the Batman Beyond Compendium, which is all the animated series tie-ins except for the Return of the Joker adaptation. For some reason that was skipped here, and it's actually in the next Batman Beyond Compendium, which has a bunch of comics that aren't actually the DC Animated Universe. But this is the tie-in miniseries plus the ongoing and some extra stuff. It's basically supposed to be an all-in-one kind of experience for the animated tie-ins for Batman Beyond. And that makes for a pretty cool collection. Then you got characters like Lobo, who have a ton of miniseries and a ton of side material. And so Lobo's Big Fragging Compendium 1 is just all the crazy Lobo stuff, because he's never had a consistent run. And so it's him in all of his crazy appearances. But again, there's no omnibus equivalent to this. Sometimes it seems like, oh, they'll do a compendium for a character that may not sell an Omni. Also, for some reason, we've still not gotten a second volume of this, even though it's been long enough that DC changed their logo. Then you have my favorite compendiums, which is Green Lantern Rebirth and Milestone Compendium. So the way these work, in the case of Green Lantern Rebirth, this is every Green Lantern title. from this era. So it's Green Lantern Rebirth, it's Secret Files and Origins, it's Green Lantern, it's Guy Gardner Collateral Damage, it's Rann-Thanagar War, Rann-Thanagar War Special, Green Lantern Corps Recharge, Green Lantern Corps, and Ion. It is not restricted to just, Green Lantern by Jeff Johns or Green Lantern by Peter J. Tomasi, like the way the omnibuses are. This is an all-in-one omnibus collection. But this format, this idea, started with the Milestone compendiums, which a bunch of this, I think most of this, has never been reprinted before. Whereas a bunch of the Green Lantern had been reprinted before, most of the Milestone hadn't. Because we'd gotten some collections of Static Hardware and Icon, but the rest had pretty much never been reprinted before. But the way these work is that you're not getting a specific Milestone character, but the entirety of the Milestone imprint. So this is Hardware 1 to 12, Bloodskin to hit 1 to 12, Icon 1 to 10, Static 1 to 8, Shadow Cabinet 0, and Zombie 0 to 11. And it's in a approximate reading order, the best they could do, to where the story arcs are contained together and everything syncs up, so that way as you're reading through it, you're getting the entire experience of the entire Milestone universe. And this is continued for 5 compendiums to contain everything from the Milestone era. And that's something that DC Finest can't provide. Both of these books would not fit within DC Finest requirements. And well, what do I mean by that? Well, let's first of all remember what DC Finest is. So you think about this, right? Batman at the time had Batman and Detective Comics. So 413 to 422 of Batman, 580 to 589 of Detective Comics. That makes for a nice $40 paperback, right? But the thing is, this covers, approximately 2 years. Let's take a look at the date range on something like Green Lantern Rebirth, right? So let's go in here. The first comic was published in December 2004, and the last issue in this was published May 2007. So it's actually a 3-year range in approximately, what is this, about 1,400 pages, I think? And this covers multiple titles. And so I think, if you're someone that's like, oh, I really want 2000's Green Lantern. Oh, this is 1,600 pages, sorry. Actually closer to 1,600. If you're somebody that wants 2000's Green Lantern and you want all of it, I wouldn't be waiting for a DC Finest, because I feel like this is going to be the all-in-one edition. And I'll tell you this why. Because the Milestone Compendium, right, contained all the series. Well, there's one Milestone Comics DC Finest, like one of these, and it's only Static. It's just the first batch of Static for the first couple years. It doesn't contain any of the other titles. Now, will Hardware, Icon, and Rocket, and Blood Syndicate get Finest collections? Who's to say? We don't even know if Static's going to get a second one, but I feel like titles like Zombie are going to end up only in here. Just like I feel like if they break up the Green Lantern stuff and it's like, oh, you have a Finest line for Green Lantern, a Finest line for Green Lantern Corps, is Guy Gardner Collateral Damage going to be in any of that? That's kind of the question there. So these are really, I think, the best way for compendium formats to exist, which is containing everything from a subset of the universe. And then we have these two releases from 2025 that defy all expectations. We have Dr. Fate by J.M. DeMatteis and the Terrifics Complete Collection. So one of the things about compendiums that is a little frustrating at times, and people have pointed this out, is you have a compendium like Batman Black and White, big thick book, and then you have a compendium like Batman Beyond, little thinner, and they're both $60. All compendiums are $60. It's just a fact. So it seems like, regardless of page count, it's going to be content specific, but compendiums are $60 paperbacks at DC. Cool. All right. Finest are $40 paperbacks at DC. Okay, cool. So when we have the Terrifics, a paperback complete collection that is $60, why is this not called a compendium? How about Dr. Fate, which is a complete collection for $60? How is that not a compendium? Is it because their page counts are a little lighter? Well, not exactly. Animal Man's shorter than the Terrifics, and a little bit longer than Dr. Fate, but not by much. In fact, Batman Beyond and Dr. Fate, I believe, share a page count. All 4 of these are $60 paperback collections, but only 2 of them are given the compendium name, while 2 of them are not. Why? I have no idea. I've got absolutely no clue. This could be, just like this is Batman Beyond the Animated Series Classics Compendium, this could have been the Terrifics Complete Collection Compendium. This could have been Dr. Fate by J.M. DeMatteis Compendium. I don't really understand why the name's different, but ostensibly, and in my eyes, these 2 are compendiums. They fit the price model, they fit the design, they fit the page counts. These 2 are compendiums in my eyes. And also that would say to me that, yes, these are also existing where DC Finest would not. Because currently, to date, if I've done my research correctly, the only overlap between Compendiums and Finest so far is that Static got a Finest, while all of the issues are also in a Milestone Compendium. So I would say if something like a Compendium or a $60 paperback that is everything but Compendium in name only, I would say probably that's a good sign that that's not going to hit DC Finest. Yeah, I don't know if ever, but not anytime in the near future. And also, it is kind of nice, like, for the Terrifics. This is a series that had a good run, but it was only 30 issues in an annual, so why not throw it all into one book instead of splitting it up in any way? And the price difference is not too bad. Same thing with Dr. Fate. This isn't the entire run, it's just the Diamanteius part, but that's still 25 issues. So, yeah. I don't really see a reason that these aren't called Compendiums, but I also don't see a reason they would reprint these in Finest anytime soon. So what about these? Complete collection paperbacks that are still coming out in a post-DC Finest world. Okay, well, the simple answer for this is because Booster Gold Book 2 came out because Book 1 was before DC Finest existed, and Book 3 is coming out to finish it. Jaime Reyes' Blue Beetle Book 3 came out after Finest, but Book 1 and 2 were before Finest. JLA Book 2 after Finest, JLA Book 1 before Finest. Though, this came close enough to DC Finest that I wonder if this was always in the plans. Let me speculate further. So, in the terms of Booster Gold, could Booster Gold get a DC Finest line? Probably. It seems incredibly likely. He's had enough solo material that you could combine and do a DC Finest on him. Did they just start this run and decided, oh, let's finish these paperbacks before we, circle back around in Finest? Probably. At a $30 cover price, they're definitely cheaper than DC Finest, which is a good thing. So I think that was the case there. For Blue Beetle, it's obviously the same thing. Like, there's really no speculating beyond this. It's just, oh yeah, we put 2 volumes out before Finest existed. We need to put that 3rd volume out and finish the run. And the run actually includes some backup stories from Booster Gold that haven't been reprinted before. So they did that. Now, would a DC Finest Blue Beetle collection contain all of this in one go? Probably not. It would cut off at some point in the middle, and it may include some other appearances that didn't make it into these books. They may not be exactly sure how they want to tackle that one yet. But then we have JLA, because these books are, I think, slightly confusing compared to everything else. So, for example, JLA, Grant Morrison was the lead writer on the series, and there was a JLA by Grant Morrison omnibus. And so their run was contained within that. Then they started doing these. Well, actually, first of all, they actually had paperbacks called JLA Book 1, Book 2, Book 3, etc., and those were just the main JLA issues by Grant Morrison. Then there was the Omni. And then you think, they may have done a JLA by Grant Morrison compendium or a JLA compendium like the Green Lantern, right? Or the Milestone. But instead they've done these, which are $50 paperbacks. $50, not that much bigger than a Finest. In fact, I'm pretty sure they are, pretty much around 600 pages. They're Finest size. They're just $10 more. And I was trying to figure out exactly why, and I don't have an exact answer, but my guess is because these JLA books feature brand new cover art. This is the interesting part. I believe it's Howard Porter did the art on both of these. This is the same guy, yeah. So Howard Porter did brand new cover art on these. Does that justify the extra $10 for people? I don't know. But these are new covers, which is not something we see with Finest. It's not something we see with the compendiums. They use existing artwork, right? But here we have new artwork. The other thing is, a bunch of the stuff in these books hasn't been recollected before. And because it was in that transition point between traditional comic formatting done on paper with copiers to transitioning to digital coloring and stuff like that, there may have been more restoration work needed than some of the older comics. That's something Marvel's dealt with their late 90s titles. Is like, I believe one of the reasons why Generation X, which is a pretty popular X-Men book, hasn't hit omnibus is because they started doing digital coloring and they may not have had the proper files to do an oversized printing. So with this, this is seeing like JLA 1 to 9, which has been collected many times, but this has, even advertises never before collected Tomorrow Woman, 80-page giant annual, Paradise Lost, and the JLA Gallery. And then same thing with Book 2. You have some of this, I think, like World Without Grown-Ups was in the Young Justice Omnis, but there's some others like New Year's Evil Prometheus. I don't think that actually was in anything else. So these books are also progressing slowly because of the page count, right? Because they were only up to issue 23 on book 2. There's still a ton to go. And they put these out about once a year. Now, I think, Compendium may have been the better way to get through this quicker, but these books, I think, are probably prepping us for a future format, whether it be DC Finest or Compendium, because there's a lot of JLA material. Morrison's run is the part that gets prioritized because of the name recognition of the creator, but there's a lot of JLA material in this era, and the next book is going to contain only a few issues of JLA and a bunch of side material, which I'm enjoying. I like this era, and I think this is a cool collection. It should look really nice on the shelf with each spine having a different leaguer. Now, the thing is, when it came to a DC Finest, right, I was talking about the date range thing, right? Like with the Green Lantern Compendium, it's like 3 years. With Milestone, that first Milestone Compendium only covers like a year and a half, maybe, right? So if you're talking about like DC Finest very focused on the dates, they don't actually have the dates in here. But essentially, if you're talking 10 to 23, that's less than a year, right? In this first volume, you're not even covering a full year of JLA. So your spine would end up just saying like 1996 or whatever it was. Whereas you can see it would be similar to the War volume, where the War volume, because it contains, 6 or 7 titles in it, it has to put January 57 to April 57 because the normal date format doesn't work when you only exist within 1 year, but you got to keep the spine design, right? Like would I think the JLA Finest, if they were to just, reskin these into it, would be a similar thing. So it's the only one that confuses me. I think I've got the answer on all of the others, but it does feel kind of weird. But maybe it was just a case of this JLA book 1 was planned out. Maybe they planned out all the books, and then they came up with the idea for DC Finest and started working on that. And so it's just, we're going to continue with these for JLA, and then who knows? Like Marvel, now that their Epic collections are, over a decade old, have started doing this thing where they reprint complete collections as modern epics. Maybe that's something in the future for JLA in this era. Who knows? But for now, as I kind of collect, I see what I get when I exist and not worry about a possibility of the future. I'll worry about that later. But yeah, these are very interesting. This is the one that confuses me the most out of all the formats. So that's my thoughts on the overlapping of DC's paperback formats. I may be completely off base. I'm just kind of taking a educated guess based on how I've looked at what they put out so far. But it does say to me that there are certain things that will make DC Finest, certain things that will make Compendium, and then for some reason you get books like Dr. Fate, which by all accounts should be a Compendium, but just isn't titled that. It's kind of fun. I hope I made things less confusing. If I made things more confusing, then I kind of failed at my mission here, but I thought it'd be an interesting discussion topic. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Let me know what you think about DC's multiple book formats going on, because it's interesting with Marvel, they've really pared down to where everything is an omni or an epic, and then occasionally there'll be like a complete collection paperback, whereas DC is like, yeah, we got Finest, we got Compendiums, we got complete collections that are like Compendiums, we've got thick trades that are like Finest. So, it's interesting, but it's nice that they're continuing series they started, because DC, over the years, as a longtime DC collector, they would do things like, oh, here's Cassandra Cain Batgirl in paperback, and we get Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3, and then never a Volume 4. They did it with Birds of Prey, they did it with Azrael, and we got a Volume 1. They would drop lines of reprints so often, but they've committed really hard with the new structuring at their creative department. The collector editions department's been really restructured, and the Finest, the Omnis, the Compendiums, everything feels like intentional, like they got a plan, and they're actually sticking to it. So I'm not going to question the plan. I'm just going to enjoy the comics that come out. So if you enjoyed this, hit the like button and subscribe and the notification bell so you don't miss out on future comic videos and other types of videos on the channel. If you want to continue the conversation, you can join our Discord server in the link below. And if you so wish, you can join as a channel member and get perks like early access to videos and special shoutouts. Let's give some special shoutouts to some of our channel members. Special shout out to all of our channel members, including these Captain Tier members: Spin-54, Forever1000, Master Ben95, Super Shaddix Boom, Veloquence, Rogue Leader 2448, Mr. Smelly Potato, Alt Mode Archive, Alice James, Taran Thomas, Fernando Pereira, Common Jojo, Mike Hazel, Platinum Angel, and Zabimaru 202. Bonus shout out to Simple OS for joining at Commander Tier. Thank you all for supporting this channel, viewers and channel members alike. I'm also on social media on Blue Sky and Letterboxd at Soundout12. You can find my wonderful graphic designer on social media and Discord at DarkClaw643. And you can find Hero Club at hero-club.com for comic reviews and more. And until next time, this is Soundout saying, let's see what DC's got cooking, because I'm excited to see what's next.